You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney Theme Parks podcast, and this is show number 272 for Sunday, the 4th of August, 2019.
Where dreams begin.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls, and I have two very special guests. I would like to introduce you to Jerry and Julie. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
It's so great we've been able to schedule this phone call to be able to find out a little bit more about you guys and your love of Disney.
We're really glad that it worked out for us, too. We're really excited to share.
I will confess to being a little starstruck. I've been a Disney Dream Girl listener for quite a while, and so to hear you saying my name is very, very fun.
You wouldn't say that if you saw me at the moment. I have got hair all over the place. I have still got pyjama bottoms on from this morning. It has been one heck of a day, and I'm just so glad that you guys bared with me as we jiggled things around to try and fit this chat in, because I am so passionate about talking to people about Disney, and you guys have got so many stories to share with me and our listeners.
Well, as a Disney Dream Girls fan myself, as I don't know, a Disney Dream guy, is that the term that we should use? I noticed, listening to your stories of recent episodes, knowing what's coming up for you, I sent you the email saying, hey, we'd be happy to share some stories, because a couple of our stories connect with what you've been doing, what you've been discussing on the Dream Girls podcast, as well as we have some stories that are a little bit different than I've ever heard on the Disney Dream Girls. And so I thought your audience might get a kick out of hearing them.
Absolutely, but I want to take us back in time. How did you guys meet? And were you both Disney fans, or did one convert the other? Please tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, this is Julie. I'll talk first. So I've been a Disney fan for, pretty much my whole life. I got to go to Disney my first time when I was in the 8th grade. I was struck and in love from that point on. Jer and I met back in 2000 when I was in nursing school, and he was in seminary to be a priest. He was at the Institute for Priestly Formation.
Which gets a chuckle from Catholic audiences, because we're both Catholic, and as you may know, Catholic priests are celibate and do not get married. And therefore, when I say I met my wife at the Institute for Priestly Formation, Catholics kind of cock their head sideways and look at me like, huh?
From there, we became good friends and stayed friends until the next year, when things changed from friends to more than, and we were married a year later after that, and the rest is, as they say, history.
God had different plans for me. Right. Instead of being Father Jerry, I am Jerry, father of 4 children. So,
yeah.
Well, that is just a sheer wonderful story. And as you say, those plans are made out, and for some reason, fate had you going down a different route.
Exactly.
So as a couple, when did you first go on a trip to Disney?
Well, it was when our first 2 children were young and our third was on her way. My mom wanted to bring the kids to Disney World. To circle back around to your original question, I have also always been a Disney fan. Love the movies and the cartoons from childhood. I'm pretty sure we went to Disney World at least once while I was a kid. But for me, it's mostly been a movies and a stories connection, the books and the movies. So we have a boy and 3 girls. Mm-hmm. So pray for me. And but when our oldest was 4, and then our first daughter was then 2, mm-hmm. And our second daughter was on her way, my mom wanted to bring the kids to Disney World, and so we spent a week at Disney World, and it was amazing. And then we did it again 3 or 4 years later. My mom wanted to do it again, because at that point, the last 2 children had arrived, and my oldest 2 were older enough to be able to do more and appreciate more. My mom loves Disney at Christmas time, mm-hmm. With all the Christmas decor.
It's my favorite as well.
And so our first trip as a family with just the 2 children and the one on the way was in December, early December, for Christmas decorations and Christmas events and whatnot. And then the second trip, my mom wanted to kind of do the same thing. It was December of 2013 that she was talking about having the trip then. I did a little research and was looking around and realized, hey, wait a minute. In about a month later than what she was suggesting the trip be, I turned 40 years old in January of 2014. So now everyone knows my age. But so I asked my mom, I hatched this crazy scheme, a real goofy scheme, shall we say, that I would try to train for and achieve the Goofy Challenge at Walt Disney World's Marathon Weekend. During Walt Disney World's Marathon Weekend in January, they host a series of races. I believe it's gone up to 5 now, where they have a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a full marathon. Did I miss one?
I think it's
5K,
just the
10K. So maybe it's just the 4. You can register for any of those individually, but they also allow you to register for groups of events. If you do all of the races on the weekend, they call that the Dopey Challenge. We think fairly aptly named. But if you only do the marathon and the half marathon, so the half marathon's on Saturday and then the full marathon on Sunday, they call that the Goofy Challenge. You register for both, and if you accomplish both, then you get a third medal specific to the Goofy Challenge. And if you do both a half marathon and a full marathon, that is 39.3 miles. And since I am very slow, very much an adult onset athlete, as I like to say, and therefore line up at the back of the line for these races, and thousands of people participate in these races, where I line up is easily a half mile or more from the actual start line of the race. So I figured it was fair enough to call it my 40 at 40 challenge, where I was going to go 40 miles at 40 years of age and complete that challenge, and did that. And that was our second big trip to Walt Disney World as a family. And Julie, because she and I had been using long distance races, half marathons and marathons for years to help us to structure and motivate our own fitness efforts, she participated in the half marathon. And so the two of us on Saturday walked the half marathon. And it was during that race, which if you spend enough time in Walt Disney World, Florida in January, you never know what the weather's going to be like. So during the half marathon, we were walking it together. It was like 80 degrees. We were sweating our behinds off, quite literally, and looked at each other and said, we could handle this. We like this. Let's look at this. And so it was on that trip in Walt Disney World that we decided we were going to leave Northern Illinois and move to Southwest Florida.
During that time, too, in Illinois, we had left. They were having what they called the polar vortex, where it was colder in Illinois than it was in Alaska at that point in time. I distinctly remember on one of our evenings in a sweatshirt and shorts looking at Jer saying, I can't go back. Don't make me go back. I need to stay here in this weather where it's fantastic. So,
well, a funny story about that is when we left for Walt Disney World that morning, the temperature was -7 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature, not with the wind chill, that was just the flat temperature, was -7 degrees Fahrenheit when we got to the airport. And so when we arrived in Orlando and got to the resort, I think that second trip we stayed at Port Orleans, we immediately went to our room. We had arrived in the evening, threw our luggage in the room, got on swimsuits, and ran to the pool to go swimming because it was 60 degrees Fahrenheit here in Florida. And so while all of the Floridians were looking at us like we were crazy in their jackets because at 60 degrees it feels very chilly, we dove in the pool and were like, you have no idea, we left the polar vortex and we can't be happier. And dove into the pool, and the kids and I all swam for like an hour that evening, and were just reveling in it.
Ones, yeah.
Can I just say, I am really dreading your 80th, because I do expect you then to do an 80-mile race. Just putting it out there now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, we'll check back in with that.
Have you ever ventured further afield than Florida? Have you been over to California or to any of the other parks worldwide?
We have been to Disneyland in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been twice.
Oh, that's 5 years.
5 to 7 years. Yeah, I think it was like about 7 years ago. I went once. I was in Anaheim for some work, and a friend of mine and I were able to squeeze a couple of Disney days in, and went to Disneyland. And then a couple of years later, I was able to bring Julie with me. I had a booth at a convention. If you know Disneyland, you know the Anaheim Convention Center is right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was running a booth at a multi-day convention there. The religious education festival for the archdiocese, to bring it back to the Catholic connection. But because we were across the street and Disney fans, we could not help but spend a day or two getting Disney tickets. And so Julie and I were able to do a couple of days of Disneyland in Anaheim and get a little compare contrast. That was, as I say, about 5 years ago. That was
maybe 4. It might be 4 years ago now.
Yeah, it might be.
But I will tell you, at our last day that the two of us were at Disney, we like to call it adult Disney, where we've left the children elsewhere and it's just the two of us getting to go explore the park, because I sometimes have more fun at adult Disney than we have it with our children. We had talked about how it's a long-term goal to try to hit all of the parks at some point, just to go and explore the other parks.
Mm.
Yes, the Disney Dream Girls has put that on our bucket list, so you're to blame.
All my fault.
Because thanks to our friends from Diz Down Under and other places, we get to hear about the parks, in Asia and DLP and everywhere else.
Doing the podcast has enabled friendships like this to build and exist, really, if you think about it, because if it wasn't for the podcast, I wouldn't even know Jane.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
It's a big boon, and it's great that we can share our love for the theme parks. I haven't yet been to the Far East, and I'm hoping one day I'll get there, because Kat and Lewis keep talking me into it. And so, you've mentioned a little bit about your Disney. I've spoken quite a lot on the podcast about doing these 4 parks in one day. And I think I've got a pretty nailed down itinerary of what I'm going to do. I listened patiently to Len Tester and felt exhausted as he whizzed me through 27 attractions in one day. And then I even needed a cup of tea with biscuits after that one. So I've pinned it down, and I think I've got a pretty good plan. But you guys are experts. You've done this. So please, can you share what you did? And then maybe I can gain some top tips from you.
Well, 2 years ago, now everybody's going to know my age, I hit the big 40, and I have a cousin who, she and I have been very close our whole lives. She and I are exactly 2 months apart. And so earlier that year at our niece's wedding, my cousin Eileen and I had said to each other, we've got to do something special for our 40th. Like we can't just let this just go. And she said, well, I'll come down for 4 or 5 days, and we'll celebrate together. And I said, oh, that would be amazing. So do you want to go to Disney? And she was like, heck yeah, I'm in. And so she came down and we spent a day at the beach, and then we drove up to Orlando, and she and I went and spent a day at Universal because we, had to explore the Harry Potter side of things. And then we did our Disney day, where it was the 4 parks in one day. And it was quite the fun adventure. It was such a blast. Exhausting, but such a blast. So,
well, because we asked when Eileen said, I'll come down and we'll do Florida. She was going to do Florida for her 40th birthday. So she came down to where we lived and we did the beach, because that's Florida. You go to the beach. And then she said they wanted to do Universal, and she said I could do one day at Disney. And she knew next to nothing about Walt Disney World. She didn't even know there were 4 different theme parks. She just thought that Disney World was one place you go to and you do stuff there. And so knowing nothing about, the wonderful complexity that we Disney lovers know about, we asked her, we said, okay, what kind of a day do you want? Do you want to really focus on one particular aspect of Disney? Do you want to just do like the most classic stuff and stick to the Magic Kingdom? She said, I put myself in your hands. You decide. You figure it out. I have no idea and I have no interest in researching. So you just run the show. And so we started rubbing our hands together and like twirling our mustaches and going, oh, what trouble you've gotten yourself into. So we thought that if she's going to have one day at Disney, what would be fun is to give her an overview of all of Walt Disney World by visiting all 4 theme parks and showing her highlights of all of our favorite parts. And so we designed a day. Now, we did not have the advantage of, touring plans, but based on just our experience and what we thought we could handle, we constructed a 4 parks in a day.
So how did you go about organizing that, Julie?
So we started that morning. We parked at Magic Kingdom because as annual pass holders, you can park at any of the parks. And so we parked at Magic Kingdom and we went in and she bought her tickets and Jared told her, don't get too attached to this park. We're not staying here right now. We're going right to the monorail. And so we took the monorail right to Epcot. And there we did a tour around the world so that she could say she walked around the world. Then we did Spaceship Earth and we did the Three Caballeros ride. That was just a lot of fun because it was December. And so it was set up for Christmas, in all of, in all of the parks. And so it was just really beautiful to kind of get to see the different sections. It was stunning. And so I think we might have actually had a cup of tea in England there, which was kind of fun. So
my wife is a big tea drinker.
I'm a huge tea fan.
Did you have any rules or what was your main idea behind hitting the 4 parks?
Our idea was that we wanted to hit like 2 iconic attractions per park, as well as give some at least 1 or 2 character interactions and of course wishes. We did wishes, because it was wishes at the time. If I were designing an overview of Walt Disney World for someone very unfamiliar, I would also have included as a priority, live entertainment, a show or 2 as well, because that's another key component to the Walt Disney World experience, as well as food, of course, but just speaking in terms of what we wanted her to experience. However, Julie's cousin Eileen works in live theater. She is in charge of the entire costume department of a theater in downtown Chicago.
The Goodman Theater.
The Goodman Theater. And so her whole world, her life is live theater. So it's not quite the same. The same magic as when we experience live theater at Disney World. For us, it's like, we don't get to experience live entertainment like this very often. So she begged off. She told us specifically, we can skip the live shows. So that's why we didn't do any live shows, but rather stuck to attractions, character interactions, and a little bit of food. But we didn't really take too much time on the food side of things either, because none of us are particularly foodie. Oh, and the other priority was the variety of transportation options. So the fact that Walt Disney World is as big as it is, providing so many different transportation options, we also wanted to hit all of those, which is why we started with the monorail to Epcot, did Spaceship Earth, the iconic attraction, and then Three Caballeros for the World Showcase, so that we could show her both Future World and the World Showcase, so that she can say that she saw all of Epcot.
And I think being able to go around all the different countries as well has got so much to offer people just by popping in the shops, getting, the feel of Christmas as well, and having a little sample, of the cultures. It's brilliant, because if you've never been out of the United States, you'll have been able to go to China, Japan, North Africa. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places. So it was really a lot of fun to share that with her, because we could say you walked around the world today, and that was a lot of fun because we walked a lot. But for her to be able to say, "Hey, I walked around the world," that was pretty fun.
So how did you leave Epcot? Did you use a different type of transportation?
Yes, we got on the Walt Disney World bus to Hollywood Studios was our next stop.
You know, Hollywood Studios is a blast, and this was before the new Toy Story Land had opened, and so, you know, we were trying to go and explore and see what was there, and she had said that while there, one of the biggest things she wanted to do was meet Chewbacca. She calls him her husband. She just loves Chewbacca, and so that was actually, she got to have a picture with Chewie, which was a blast, and that was her Christmas card that year, so it was really pretty fun. But she was super excited, and she just loved how everybody was in such good character, you know, how they just kind of take it on, and how Disney does such a nice job with that. You know, she just thought it was just so cool to watch the stormtroopers marching and, you know, getting to meet Chewbacca. And we did ride the Star Tours ride, which was a lot of fun. We also, we ate at Hollywood and Vine. So we did do one food thing where we ate at Hollywood and Vine. We did that character meet there. Mm-hmm. And she and I were just laughing this morning talking about it. She said, "Oh my gosh, do you remember how we had to get a picture with every single character?" And we weren't even the kids. She said,
"Yeah, there were four of us adults all taking pictures with all the Disney Junior characters, you know, like Handy Manny and Sophia the First, and you know, all the Disney, all the little kids characters." But we were all Disney fans enough to really get into it, so that every time a character came near our table, we all jumped up and we all got our pictures and we all thanked them for coming by and just had a ball.
Yeah, because with our kids being little, and you know, 2 years ago they were littler than they are now, we knew all of those shows from watching it with the kids. And Eileen has 4 nieces, and so she knows all of those shows just from hanging out with her littles, and so it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
So Hollywood Studios provided us with our character interactions for Eileen, Chewbacca being her favorite, and then the Disney Junior characters at the wonderful brunch buffet.
One thing I've never done is that. I'm not really a Disney Junior fan, but I have heard the food there is particularly good.
It was delightful. Yes.
I don't think I've been to a Disney buffet that I did not come away overfull and quite happy.
Yeah, that's the downside. It's that temptation of a little bit more. I'm sure you can squeeze an extra bit of dessert in, and it's like, that's probably a little bit too much food for me.
Yeah, their croissants are my favorite because they're so flaky and light, and I'm just like, I could eat 6 of these totally. No problem. I just need to put a little cream on this or a little butter, and it's just perfect. And it's delightful. Yeah. So
bad. So you've had your trip to Hollywood Studios. Epcot's already in the bag. I know you're finishing at Magic Kingdom, so now I'm guessing you went over to Animal Kingdom?
We did. We did manage to squeeze in Toy Story Midway Mania at Hollywood as well, because Eileen thought it was hilarious how she couldn't quite get the whole shooting thing working for her.
She said all she could do was laugh because she just remembered spinning around and around and around and just laughing so hard that she couldn't focus on shooting any of the targets. She said it was just so much fun. So from Hollywood Studios, we took another bus over to Animal Kingdom, which happens to be my all-time favorite park in terms of the 4 parks at Disney World. We had an absolutely beautiful day, and so by this point, you know, it was getting on to evening time, and so we did the Kilimanjaro Safari, and it was really great. We were a little bummed because, you know, it's evening, and so some of the animals were heading off to sleep, or, you know, going kind of, we didn't see as many as we wanted to, but Eileen was just completely entranced by the gloriousness that is the land that they have set up for those animals, and getting to see the giraffes. We did see a whole, what do they call the herd of giraffes? The tower of giraffes, and it's really fun to...
The tower of giraffes and the flamboyance of flamingos, as I have learned from multiple safaris.
So that was really, really fun. And then from safari, we went over to Asia and rode Everest, which at the time there was no line. And I can't even remember why there was no line.
I think it was because Rivers of Light was getting ready to start. And probably. So most of the crowds were filing into the amphitheater, and so suddenly Everest really didn't have much line at all.
It was like a 3-minute wait.
So we went.
It was fabulous.
We went on it again, and then got off of it, and then noticed, hey, there's no wait for this. Shall we do it again? Yeah, let's do it again. And so we ended up doing it 3 times.
3 times
in a row.
3 times in a row, which was just an absolute blast, because the first time you ride it, you don't know what you're expecting, and then the second time you're like, oh my gosh, I have to see that just one more time. And Jared and I had from experience known that if you do it 4 times, you feel like Everest kind of took you. So we cut it off at 3, but it was pretty fantastic. And we grabbed a light snack at Harambe Market while we were there. And we did see the live street show that they have in Harambe, which was very cool. Eileen thought that was really neat to kind of see
the amazing African musicians.
Yeah. So that was very cool.
So just quick insert here. Note to Jane. Newbies went and rode Everest. You need to ride Everest. Just saying. Sorry, I just had to do that.
It's okay.
Just torment her a little bit more for never having ridden the best ride.
We can tell Jane that our 6-year-old loves Everest. So you have to give it a try, Jane. It's really, really quite a blast.
That and Tower of Terror. I will get her on there one of these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good luck on that one. I think Everest is a little more realistic. I think because Everest has a wonderful, because it's a roller coaster, but it's a roller coaster with a really fun story built into it, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't experienced it, but there's a whole story that gets told in the course of riding a roller coaster, which how cool is that?
It's so amazing. It is just the best. So
absolutely.
You say fond farewell to Animal Kingdom and go back to Magic Kingdom. You said it was at the time of wishes. Did you do anything else while you was in the Magic Kingdom?
We did. We managed to squeeze in, the iconic "It's a Small World." Mm-hmm. We did get to go on Small World. I think we rode the carousel because there's rarely a long wait for that.
We ate in Pinocchio's
Village House.
Mm-hmm. And so got to wave to all the people riding Small World, which Eileen thought was quite hilarious. And
I think it was before the time they had the signs.
Yeah.
Because now they have, because at Pinocchio Village House there in the Magic Kingdom, they have a seating area where they have, clear windows overlooking It's a Small World, where the folks who are loaded into the attraction come, as the attraction is beginning, there's a corner where you drift around the corner and then into the attraction on the boats. And if the folks look up, they can look into the windows of Pinocchio Village House. And now they have these oval-shaped signs that you can hold up at the window that have pre-printed messages. Some of them are like, make a funny face, or touch your nose, or sing Let It Go is another one. And so just recently, Jules and I had a couple of days at Disney, just the two of us, and we sat at those windows and had fun ourselves using those signs. But then it was also particularly fun to, when a family would sit down at the table next to us, there'd be a little kid who would look over at us and look a little curious. And so I would hand them the sign and explain how to do it. And then their excitement at getting people on It's a Small World to do silly things from the boat just was so fun. The kids' excitement at getting adults to do silly things was very, very fun.
Absolutely.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So what a finale to see Wishes and an exhausting but fun day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we hit the final form of transportation, of course, because we took the ferry boat back to the transportation center, the ticket and transportation center for Magic Kingdom. So we managed to hit all the transportation options as well as, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, and we hit the shops on our way out as well, because
The Main Street.
The Main Street shops, as we were, after Wishes heading back towards the ferry boat. We of course had to go through the shops and do a little shopping before we headed out of the park for the day. So
absolutely, it's the law. You've got to hand over all those dollars to Disney.
Of course.
So what top tips can you give me about my challenge that I'm trying to do? What do I need to know?
Oh, I don't know that I could follow Len Testa, but I think for us, what made it a successful day was we knew what we wanted to accomplish. We knew what our priorities were. Our goal in a 4 parks in a day was to provide Cousin Eileen with that overview, just sort of a full Disney experience between character interaction, excellent food, a variety of attractions from roller coaster to classics like It's a Small World, so that she could go home and say, I now have a real solid experience of Walt Disney World. That was our goal, and I think we did a good job of accomplishing that, given the limitations of time and bus schedules and those sort of things. What do you think?
Yeah, I think too, you'll just have to think about what are the biggest things you want to see at each of the parks, because like Jer said, there's the time constraint of, there are only so many hours in a day from which parks are open to do. And so look at the parks that are going to be open the latest, and maybe that's the one you finish at, and what do you want to see while you're there, and be aware that there is some surrender to the lines of waiting and time. And it was definitely a lot of fun to ride all 4, all of the different transportation options that we had, and take advantage of that. So
also, I think part of it was because Eileen did not have any pre-knowledge and didn't care what we did. Jules and I got to pick all of our favorites, and then getting to share our favorite things with her and our love of those things, whether it be from Tower of Terror, which we both very much love, to to Kilimanjaro safaris, and being able to say, oh, when one of the time we saw this at this spot, and oh, we love this, and look over there and see that, and or do Everest 3 times in a row because there wasn't a line, because it's just our one of our favorite coasters. I think the infectiousness of us getting to share with her all of our favorite things also made it a very special day, combined with then she got to share with us some of her love, specifically in the Star Wars element, because at that time, 2 years ago, the launch pad had just opened in Hollywood Studios, and so the Chewbacca experience was very new, and so she was just giddy to meet Chewbacca and get a hug from Chewbacca and have her picture. And so that was extremely fun for us to get to share in her excitement.
Oh, it sounds so much fun. It is great when you see someone go to Disney for the first time and their eyes light up and you just know they've got it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you for all of that. Well, no doubt you'll hear very soon whether I manage to survive my day. If it is successful, I am sure whatever we end up doing, as we're doing it with our good friends Tommy and Lena, we will have a blast. And if the plan goes slightly off the rails, it doesn't matter because we're in Disney World.
Exactly. And Disney in July, I will encourage you to have 2 things. Poncho for the afternoons, change of shoes so you're not slogging around in wet sneakers, and a cool towel for the morning when it's 90 degrees and humid.
Yeah, hydration is a biggie, because obviously
hydration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had the advantage of doing our 4 parks in a day in December, and so it's much easier to go further, with that. Yeah, we learned recently, just 2 weeks ago, we did our first camp out at Fort Wilderness, where we actually camped in a tent. And the second day we were there, we were at Animal Kingdom in Pandora, and the heavens opened, as it tends to in Florida in the summertime, and for the next hour it just poured, and then of course went away and it was gone. But we learned the hard way about the need for shoes that can manage that better, because we were all wearing our sneakers, or I think trainers, as you might call them, and they were just so soaked that by the time we got out of the river adventure that we were online for, and then made our way over to shopping, our desire to stay at the park was next to nil, because we had sopping wet feet that needed attending. So we ended up going back to Fort Wilderness and ended up swimming in the rain, which was fun. And as you say, you're in Disney, so even if plans change, it's all wonderful. But we started then collecting waterproof shoes for the next trip, so that we were ready.
So some questions about Fort Wilderness, because it's a place that hasn't really appealed to me so much in the past, because I like the comfort, I like the fact that I've got a nice cosy bed. But the last year or so I've been involved with the Army Cadet Force, and I've been camping, and I've realised it's quite enjoyable. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is something that I could do. But something just sort of springs to my mind is like, firstly, who puts the tent up? Is the tent clean and tidy? And what about a place to store your valuables?
Excellent questions. Well, we, as a family of 6 who are annual pass holders, we live very much paycheck to paycheck, and have to budget. And so Disney is very much a luxury for us. The only reason financially that we're able to be pass holders is because Julie, who is a neonatal intensive care nurse, the hospital where she works offers an annual program, which is basically sort of an annual bonus program in which, if you fulfill a whole lot of requirements, you do some research-based project, you get involved in leadership in your unit and fulfill an entire portfolio, then you receive a financial bonus that for us just about covers the cost of annual passes for the 6 of us. And so that's how we're able to be annual pass holders. So when we do Disney, it's very often Disney on a budget. Disney, how can we maximize the magic while minimizing the hit to the checkbook? We are also a scouting family. My wife is a Girl Scout leader, and my 3 girls are in Girl Scouts, and my son is a Boy Scout, and I was a Boy Scout, and my father was a Boy Scout, and so we've done camping as a family for years and years. And so when we discovered that there's a resort at Walt Disney World that offers camping, it very much appealed to us from both a family experience standpoint of we like camping as a family, and from a checkbook standpoint, because those campsites are by far the least expensive ways to stay, not only at a Walt Disney World resort, but in Orlando for a night, that there is, because a campsite is, easily less than $100 per night for a campsite. And
you have access to all of the amenities that is offered at that resort. And so, the dining halls,
kind of.
You have access to it. Whether or not it costs extra to, use is a different story. But
to get back to your specific questions, when you reserve a campsite for a night, what you are reserving is a wonderful rock-strewn pad that has a grill on it, a picnic table on it, a driveway for your vehicle, as well as what would you call it? Like a stand, a little a device on the side of the pad that allows you electricity. So you have electricity on the site as well. Many people use those campsites for RVs, mobile homes, recreational vehicles, those sort of things. But there are campsites that are specific to tent camping as well. So in answer to your question, you bring everything with you. It's literally you are just reserving the site, and you bring the tent, you bring your clothes, your towels, your toiletries, etc. You bring everything with you in the car. It's what, for those who camp, it's sort of premier car camping, what's called car camping, because your car is sitting there next to your tent. So in answer to your question about valuables, you can either, I think there might be lockers at Fort Wilderness. I'm not sure. There's obviously lockers at each of the parks that you can rent for the day if there's something you want to make sure is locked up. But otherwise, other valuables that you would leave behind at the campsite, generally you would put those in the tent if you were concerned about security.
Or lock them in your car.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant to say. Lock them in your car, which gets left there next to your tent. But what you do also receive is, as I said, there is electricity there. So we had a nice indoor-outdoor extension cord that we plugged into the outlet that then snaked into our tent, that we then used a power strip so that we could have all the phone, all the necessary phone chargers and technological charging devices. But then also the campsites are all organized into circles, in which for each circle there is, I believe what they call it, a comfort station, in which there is a combination of restroom and showers. So that's where you can get a shower. You can use the restrooms. They also have
building.
Yes, it's an air conditioned building inside. Up to normal standard Disney mousekeeping standards, so it's very, very nice. And there's a laundry room in the comfort station. There's an ice dispenser at the comfort station, and there's vending machines. So in that sense, we were recently discussing this with friends of ours who are also into camping and scouts and whatnot. And they my friend Jeremy mentioned, said, if you ever wanted to try to seduce someone into trying camping, Fort Wilderness is the place to do it, because the amenities are so very nice and convenient for the camping experience.
It's probably something I will look forward to doing and having a go at in the future, depending on whether I can get the luggage allowance to bring over the divan bed and the glamping stove and all of those things.
Well, I will confess to you that we recently, through an Amazon sale, we about a year ago purchased a new tent that is rated for 12 people, I think it is. It's one of those instant up tent cabins in which it even comes with little walls that you can put up in there if you wanted to make it 3 different rooms. And in that tent, there is sufficient space for all 6 of us to have a camp cot. And so we actually, when we say we're camping at Fort Wilderness, we do it pretty cushy ourselves, because you can stand up. As the tallest one in the family, I can stand up straight in that tent cabin, and we all get our own, cot bed with our own pillows and all of that kind of thing. So it is that's why my friend mentioned, if you want to ease someone into camping, this is the way to do it.
It all sounds a lot of fun, and if it saves some dollars, because I keep saying this to my other half to be, that at the end of the day, it's only where you sleep. The rest of the time you're in the theme park. You do not need to be at the Grand Floridian or spending all your money at Bay Lake Tower.
Given the descriptions of your negotiations with your other half about hotel quality, I can only imagine how well the conversation would be. Look, we bring a tent and it will be fun. Good luck on that one.
Yes, it's not going to happen.
Level, though.
I can imagine his list of requirements. It must have a coffee maker. It must have a divan bed. It must have pillows. It must have running shower water. It must have running toilets that aren't a hole in the ground or anything like that. So
all of those are possible, but as you say, the cost of luggage on the airlines would be rather prohibitive, I think.
Yeah, but the good thing is you could hire an RV maybe and do it that way.
Absolutely, yes. That is a distinct possibility. Renting something like that, and then just you pull it into Fort Wilderness and plug it in, and yes, absolutely. Many people do exactly that.
Now he'll be looking at the luxury RV market, I will guarantee it.
The other side of Fort Wilderness, in addition to campsites, is, of course, the cabins. And the cabins are quite lovely. They're quite a nice accommodation, especially for larger groups, like families who want to stay economical. I believe it was like about a year and a half ago, we spent a spring break week at Fort Wilderness in the cabins and had a wonderful time as a family of 6. Each cabin, it's because you get the advantages of Fort Wilderness. You're in the woods, so you get that camping, that wilderness feel. Plus, Fort Wilderness is one advantage to Fort Wilderness is its proximity to the Magic Kingdom. You know, it's just across the Seven Seas Lagoon, so there's actually a boat that can take you directly from Fort Wilderness to the Magic Kingdom, which is quite nice, an option, as well as top tip for Fort Wilderness is when you make your reservation, simultaneous to your making your reservation, you reserve a golf cart for there too. They allow golf cart rentals there on property, and because it's a very large property, Fort Wilderness is, because of the number of campsites and RVs and cabins and whatnot. They have a busing system within the resort to take you from where your cabin or campsite is to the end of the resort where the main restaurants are, where the Hoop-de-Doo Review entertainment is, where the boat dock is to get to the Magic Kingdom. It can be quite a distance, so you either really need to wait for the bus, or a lot of people will rent a golf cart, and that way they can tool around Fort Wilderness, both between the 2 different pools that are available at the resort and the end of the resort where the boat dock is and the restaurants and that sort of thing.
Brilliant top tip there for people who are planning on having a little bit of an investigation and thinking about staying there as well.
Yeah, but the cabin was practically designed for our family of 6, because at one end of the cabin is the bedroom where you have 2 beds that are twin bunk beds, as well as a double bed. And then on the other end of the cabin, there's a lovely couch that folds out. And as anyone who goes to Disney knows, even fold-out beds are pretty comfortable. They're the most comfortable fold-out beds you can imagine. And so the 6 of us fit perfectly in one of the Fort Wilderness cabins, and it also has a small kitchenette, as well as, you know, your standard bathroom with shower and that sort of thing. And so we had a lovely week there where we cooked several meals in the kitchenette there, which saved us more money, and just had a wonderful time. It was sort of our home away from home in Disney, which was great.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, can I just say a big thank you to both of you for coming by today, having a chat with us, sharing your Disney stories. We will have to get together and talk some more in the future. But until next time, I think it's going to be a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And me as well.
Where dreams begin.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this week's show. I know I certainly enjoyed recording it with Jerry and Julie. Big thank you to both of you. If you want to give us any feedback, comments, or get in touch with the show, our email is info@disneydreamgirls.com. You can tweet us or find us on Instagram at @DisDreamGirls. You can also follow along the fun on our various Facebook pages by searching for Disney Dream Girls and Disney Dream Girls Podcast Family. Finally, if you want extra Disney Dream Girl fun each month, why not pop on over to patreon.com/Disney Dream Girls. It's got all the info there you need. But until next time, it's goodbye from me.